And I think we need to be that voice to not only the consumer, but to our agents if we're running a big team so that they know what to say and what's happening next. Because a lot of what we do, and you know this better than all of us here, but a lot of what we do requires a mindset that's a little bit more elevated, right?
Yeah, we try not to do only market data because I think that if they're in the mode to buy or sell, they care. But what about those 7 years in between on average people move? Well, I think it's even 5 years now, but still, how do I stay relevant in their life for the next 5 years before they buy or sell so that they reach out to me when it's time? And so for us, it's, on our consumer stuff, it's very localized. Here, yes, there maybe it's a little bit of real estate.
Everybody, welcome back to the show. This one's brought to you by REDX, and Robert is with us. If you didn't see him yesterday, we had 1,500 people register for that event. And I think I was laughing as much as I was learning. So thanks, Robert.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And it was so great that even after spending 3 hours with you, I was like, let's hop on another webinar, Tristan.
There you go. Because we really wanted Brian yesterday. And
yeah. So this is just like, a lead gen conversation 2.0 right now with Brian.
That's right. Brian, thanks for being on. We're going to be talking about how to keep a real estate team performing at a high level, specifically now through a shifting market. Can you tell us a little bit about you? Because I know you're an amazing coach, respected in the industry. But for those people that don't know, tell us a little short bio on you.
Sure. Hey, thanks for having me, Tristan and Robert. I appreciate it. I am the founder of Icenhower Coaching and Consulting. I've been in real estate for about 34 years now, unfortunately, kind of dating myself. And, over the years, I've owned and currently still do quite a few real estate brokerages, mortgage companies, title companies, invest and own a lot of real estate as well, too. So I'm very involved in the real estate market, but my passion is our coaching company, which has been growing quite well. We've got over 25 coaches now, and over 500 coaching clients. So we've been growing at a really nice clip, which has been wonderful. I myself don't do a lot of coaching anymore, but I have for most of my career. So now I get to speak and train a lot and help kind of coach my coaches and grow the organization. But that's where I spend most of my time, is trying to help agents sell more real estate.
I love that, man. And then Mark Rader, who is my business partner, friend of mine, co-host on this one as well. He just jumped in. So you might have.
What's going on, everyone?
How's it going, Mark?
Hey, Mark.
Hey, good to have you, man.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, let's get right into this, man. What are you seeing is going to be a challenge in a shifting market to continue to run a high performing team? How should we approach this?
That's a great question, because all of a sudden, April hit, interest rates went up. And all of a sudden, we've got a polarized industry. All of a sudden, it's like a bunch of deer in the headlight, and
yeah, dude.
And so that's created a lot of confusion around it. And I think I'll preface this. I probably should have done this to answer your last question. I've written quite a few books on the industry, and I just wrote a book called The High Performing Real Estate that Inman picked up and claimed one of the most the must-read books of 2021 is how they rated it. And we're loving that book. And we wrote that book mainly because one of the focuses of our coaching companies, we've kind of get known for coaching a lot of the highest performing real estate teams across North America. So we have a lot of specialty team coaches and coach a lot of really big teams that come in all different shapes and sizes. And this particular topic has really been something that's perplexing a lot of them, right? And then through our coaches, we're really trying to get in there and ingrain with them, how can we adapt right now? And I think the word shift scares a lot of people. It's been made famous. I think Gary Keller made it famous in his book Shift, right? And in that book, it really outlined a shifting market. It kind of defined it as, going from a seller's market to a buyer's market. And that's usually defined by the amount of inventory in the market, right? Less than 6 months of inventory, traditionally considered a seller's market. Well, in this case, we're definitely not shifting in that direction. We're not going from a seller's market to a buyer's market. Our inventory is lean. And I think this is where, when we talk about that market, we have to do a good job explaining to our agents and to the general public that there really are two different real estate markets that run side by side here. And communicating that and demonstrating that, I mean, I think that's our fiduciary duty, to give good material information to our people. And I think there's a lot of confusion. We live in an era of quote unquote fake news. So there's a lot of strange headlines and blogs about bubbles bursting and things like that. I think it's important to understand these two markets. And those two markets are home prices and home sales. And those are two different things. And for a while, we've seen them both kind of go up and down together. And that's not always the case. And we've seen that in the 80s. Again, I'm dating myself. We've actually seen a little of that in the 90s. But since the year 2000, and particularly 2001, when rates were brought down after 9/11, we really haven't seen interest rates come up significantly like we have. And now we're seeing a little bit of disparity between the two real estate markets, home prices and home sales. Nationwide, I'll preface it by saying real estate is local. So you do have, micro markets, especially when we get into luxury pricing. You can see luxury pricing get really fickle when the stock market does things. So there are some exceptions to this. But talking about North America as a whole, we are seeing housing prices continue to rise. Why? Inventory is low, supply is low. It can withstand a hit to demand. So housing prices, we are seeing just about everywhere still going up. Home sales, though, that's a different thing, right? Because now everybody got polarized. You've got a lot of people that say, hey, wait a minute, I live in a house with a 3% interest rate. Do I really want to go buy a house with a 5 or 5.5% interest rate? Maybe I won't put my house on the market. Again, inventory goes down even further. Maybe I won't buy a new house because of that too. And my demand goes down. So typically when interest rates go up, you do see, it doesn't affect supply demand too much for the most part, because you see a tending drop, right? Housing affordability, that's another big one. Yes, we are getting to an area where it's less affordable for most, but again, most economists say housing and affordability, unfortunately, in America needs to go down. Back to where it used to be. It got very, very high, up at the 75% numbers. And we're seeing that starting to head back down south of 50% at some point. And that, again, that gets made up by all the investor purchases. We saw Jeff Bezos coming out last week saying, hey, home prices are going to continue to go up. That's why I'm not going to, invest my money in spaceships that go to the moon. I'm going to run the ball right down the middle and start a massive conglomerate to buy single family homes across the country, like Jamie Dimon, like Warren Buffett, like all the major hedge funds are doing right now. They're going into real estate because they're betting on prices continuing to increase. So a bubble bursting by way of prices and seeing things go down, I just don't see how we can do that with a lack of supply. I mean, that's a fundamental principle of economics is, hey, if supply's down, unless there's absolutely no demand, in other words, people don't need houses anymore, I don't see how prices don't go up. Because supply and demand, that law will always trump every other factor. And we've seen that. It's been tested by global pandemics, the craziest elections of all time, you name it. Almost, mortgage rates have never caused prices to go down over a sustained period of time throughout history. Recessions don't even do it. The only time that we saw prices go down around a recession was 2007 and 8. And quite frankly, the prices went down first and actually caused the recession. That was a real estate created recession. So I don't think the recession caused the prices. There's a cart and a horse there. And but other than that, we've always seen prices continue to rise through recessions because people, get out of the stock markets and go into real estate. You see those investors pump things up. And so, I really do think it's important we continue to give confidence on people in buying and investing in real estate, because there's no inclination that we shouldn't. No economic considerations there, at least. But home sales, we as agents do need to adjust because, things got real good last year, and we are going to see home sales drop a little bit because of, those situations. So we do then need to make sure that we are getting back to a lot of our basics and that we're doing the activities to generate those results. That is a long-winded answer, Tristan.
Well,
You
I
hit
think
every point.
you set the base for what we should be expecting. And I love that, because that's what's going to happen next. And I think we need to be that voice to not only the consumer, but to our agents if we're running a big team, so that they know what to say and what's happening next. Because a lot of what we do, and you know this better than all of us here, but a lot of what we do requires a mindset that's a little bit more elevated, right?
Right.
And so with that said, how do you think we should approach the team so that it can continue to function at a high level?
Agreed. Yeah, this is where you see a lot of issues here on the team. The first thing is mindset. We have to tell guys, hey, I'm okay. So, our March, our March, well, let's go back, January, February, and March. Those were actually decent years. I mean, decent months this year. I mean, sales activity was real similar to the year before. And last year was the best year ever for sales activity. Okay. So last year was the best year to be in real estate in history. There were more commission dollars earned. Here's a kicker too. There was more inventory than ever. Why? There were more sales than ever. And if there were more sales, that means there had to have been more listings. That means there were more listings last year, despite everybody griping they're not having enough listings. There were more listings last year than there had ever been before. It's really hard to get more than that. I mean, that was an outrageous year. Now, it didn't feel like it because they were all selling so fast, because that buyer demand was outrageous. So they were moving past you very quick. So that was up to the agent to then shift their activities to keep up with that fast moving market. The way we wrote offers, the way we stayed on top of buyers, the way we pipelined more buyers at once, things like that. So that type of language around shift, I really like, because we do have to shift to keep up with a changing market there. So those 3 months were great. They were right on par. It wasn't until the rates jumped up in April kind of came down, right? In all likelihood, it usually takes a month or two for the polarization of rate increases to happen before sales start to pick up again. And in most areas of the country, we're already seeing that now. We're starting to see sales pick up, listings hit the market. The harvest season is the summer, and that's when people tend to list and buy anyway. So in all likelihood, we're not going to be too far off last year, which means we'll be one of the best years in history to be in real estate. We'll have one of the best years of total sales volume, probably akin to something like 2019, possibly even 2020. And those were amazing years. So to get too down and say, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. No, this is not a nightmare. We're going to we'll likely sell in the neighborhood of 6 million homes in America, which would be the third biggest year in the history of this country. That is not a woe is me type of environment. So that's the first thing we have to know as agents, is we have to keep our agents up on our team. Let them know that. Tristan, what do you think?
I think you're right, man. They need to know what's going to happen, and that it's still a great year. And the interest rates at 5.5% really isn't going to dent any market. I think as we get into the summer and later in the year, we're going to see how it affects certain areas. But dude, most areas will be fine.
Agreed.
And I think the only areas that we have to just pay attention to are areas that had a massive influx of people moving into, where the inflation was much higher, right? But even then, if the demand remains high and the inventory remains low, there is no problem.
Right. Yeah. People have to have housing. It's one of those necessity items, right? And rents aren't any better. So unless you're looking at living in a tent, renting is never a good idea. And rents have just been escalating at the same rate. We just have a housing crisis, and that crisis is we have a shortage of it, and it takes a long time to dig out of a housing shortage. You need to build a lot of houses, and that doesn't happen fast. And so much so, you've got the executive branch of the government saying, "Hey, we're going to start building houses as a government. That's how bad we need them to try to increase affordability." You see that. I mean, not to say you have to agree with that. I think it's probably a drop in the bucket. Point of the matter is, it's that big of an issue. You see the government stepping in. We haven't done that since the projects in the 1960s, and that didn't work out too well. I think we built a bunch of crack houses. But the point is, hopefully we do a better job if we're going to try it again. But that's the idea. You've got such a big problem there. I really think, people need houses, and that demand, it can't go completely away. That's for sure, because the supply certainly has. So with our teams, back to those teams. I do, since we don't have tons of time, I really want to talk about one concept that's really important. That I think it's kind of unique to one of the principles that we really emphasize with our teams that are our clients. And it's a concept I loosely refer to as the matching standard, right? This is a time where agents on your team start thinking grass is only greener. And it's really important for them. You don't let them do that. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't have any listings. The market's collapsing. What do? I need to make a change. And what's that change usually? It's not their activities, because that is painful. I've got to actually lead generate. I need to get my database together. I need to start following up with our online leads, or whatever those lead generation activities that you do with your agents on your team. All of a sudden they get off focus, and that's bad for them, because that's going to hurt their income and their production, or possibly their real estate career, right? So they get into this negative spot on the economy or the market, and they start looking, okay, I need to go to a different team or a different brokerage or something. They unfortunately, what they don't know is they're going to take the problem with them, because that problem's right inside of here, right? So that wherever they go, they're going, the market's not going to get any better. So it's very important we have a tool to be able to refocus them on the activities that they need to do to get the results that they're after. Even though they don't want to do the activity, they don't have to like the activity. They got to like the results, right? That's your job as a leader. Leadership motivates and hold people accountable to make sure. It's one of the most important aspects to being on a real estate team, right? Is, they always say, I want leads or I want admin support, or I want marketing. Yes, those things are important too. But what they don't say that is probably more important than all of those things is they need leadership. They need accountability. They need motivation. Guys, this is your time as leaders to shine. This is your chance. So don't complain about the agents not doing anything and not hustling. This is your chance as a leader to be a leader, right? So it's important we do that. And one of the ways is to refocus them like they need to on their business. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to show you explain to you a quick little concept that I refer to as the matching standard. And what that basically is, it kind of takes like an open market capitalism view of real estate teams. And the way that we demonstrate that view is this. If an agent's going to join a team, they typically want a certain amount of leads or business from you, right? If you've got an agent that is actually bringing their own business, agent generated business that they are closing to the team, maybe from their own sphere of influence, the group of people they know, but they aren't receiving much business from the team, and all of a sudden their business starts to drop right now, they become a flight risk.
True.
They become the grass is only greener person, right? That becomes the person that's complaining the most. Okay. So we always want to make sure that we are outpacing our agent production, that we have a certain amount of team generated business that we are providing to those agents, right? And usually with most of our teams, that's not a problem. Team generated could be, you're buying online leads, you're giving them your referral leads, you're giving them sign calls, however you generate business. We coach and train all these different lead generation methods. I'm not going to get into that, but I will tell you, you could be prosperity expired, whatever they're doing. We want to make sure they're always being encouraged to grow their own business within the team, because no one gets their real estate license thinking, oh man, I can't wait to be a telemarketer converting somebody else's leads forever. That's not their dream. Every agent's dream is always to at least at some point generate a business where some business comes to them. They get that come list me phone call. So if you're going to be a strong leader, you're always trying to help them grow their own book of business too. The leads you give them are very important. It supplements their income. It helps them grow. So there's a nice little balance where we give them business, but sooner or later they want to grow their own. Because if you don't focus on that, they will move on. Because at some point they want their own identity, they want their own, business, they want to do that. So help them do that. Be a good leader and help them do both. Here's a little bit to help you pay your mortgage in the meantime, but at the same time, I'm going to coach and lead you to grow your own business. So that way you put some of the onus back on them, right? I'll give you an example of what that might look like. I'm going to share a screen with you really quickly.
Shoot.
That should be able to kind of explain this to you. Can you see that, Tristan and Mark?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So I want you to look right in this region right here. You're going to see closed year to date down here.
Yep.
You see that? And you can see this is a real estate team. These are the agents on the team. And you can see that, let's say Melissa here has 25 closed year to date. She generated 10 of those closings herself. 15 were provided by the team. Okay. So you can see here, that's pretty good. I mean, she's doing pretty good. For most agents on a team, that's kind of ideal. That she's not going anywhere, because if she did, she'd lose well more than half of her business. Right. And she knows that if she wants to get more from the team, she's got to keep producing still. If I could generate 15, that team would have to stay ahead of me and maybe give me 20. Make sense?
Oh, totally, man.
Okay. So that's a healthy relationship. The team's ahead of the buyer, and she knows it, right? Because she sees it on the team's dashboard. I know this is an old clunky Excel spreadsheet. It's my old teaching dashboard from a decade ago. And I go into these concepts in my book as well too. But if you go down to a couple newer agents, this is a little bit more common on teams, right? At this point in the year, they've generated Logan has generated no transactions, but he's received 6 from the team. Jessica's generated 1 transaction that is closed, but 7 from the team. Okay. Now these are the ones that will often complain to you, right? Because they need more business, right? Hey, I need more leads. Hey, open up your socialist bank account and give me more, give me more, give me more. I'm not going to do it myself, right? So again, that's just a fun political quirk there. But you get the idea. The whole idea is I don't want to do it myself. I need more from the team. Okay. And that, of course, drives every team member mad. Well, if you would just do the activities, if you would just grow. That's why it's important to have a dashboard to preventatively strike those arguments, to create a culture of productivity, and use this as a method of lead distribution. Because now I'm going to say to Logan, hey, Logan, if you need more income, don't ask me for a better split. Don't ask me for more leads. Don't ask me if you can maybe take listings if you're a team that has only buyer's agents. What you should be doing is focusing your time, energy, and effort on growing your own SOI. Have you been updating your database? Have you called and invited them all to our next client event? Have you actually been putting the work in? Now we can refocus them, because if you had matched me by the matching standard, if you had brought 6 new transactions that closed the team, I would have probably been at 10 or 11. I would have distributed leads to you to stay ahead of you. You would have forced my hand. You would have pushed me. But instead, I got to get up here to Melissa and focus some leads to her to stay ahead of her because she's pushing me. So let's instead shift this conversation to talk about what can you do for the team. So now as a coach and as a leader, I can refocus that conversation to that agent and just say, hey, and now we're having the right conversation, the conversation he needs, not one saying, hey, give me more, give me more. Because what you'll see on teams that need to increase their agent productivity is a lot of the agents aren't doing the work. And you'll say, hey, why aren't my agents converting these leads? They just want more easy cherry pick leads, right? I just want to call them once, or I don't want to follow up, or whatever it is. And they'll just keep cherry picking, asking for more and more. You've got to put some accountability back on them. And the way to do that is you refocus their production standards. You have a conversation, you create some peer accountability by having it up on a dashboard that you review in a team meeting each week, or even though I'm closing 30 transactions a year, maybe I'm not bringing much to the team. And that all of a sudden starts to show up because everybody sees that. You don't need to talk about it or go over it every week, but they'll all see it. And it makes them kind of naked. Like, oh, I may be closing a lot, but if I'm entirely codependent on the team's production, I'm not bringing it to the team myself. I don't know what's more valuable, the agent that converts 30 of my leads or the agent that closes, 40 transactions and brought 15 from their own production that I wouldn't have had anyway as an agent if they weren't on my, as a team leader, if they weren't on my team. Is that making sense?
100%. Dude, I love that, because whatever it is that you're using to track that, you need to keep the team accountable so that they can keep growing as well. I think we sometimes feel as team leaders that if we keep people accountable, it's doing the opposite, but it's actually that accountability is what's allowing them to grow more. So
absolutely. It keeps them focused, because leadership is coaching. Even if you don't want to be a coach, if you're leading people, you're going to have to mentor and coach them and train them up and keep them up, especially right now with all the market distractions, right? So it's very important, because it's usually on what are the activities you need to do to generate more business. And we can because they're going to look to everything else to change, right? You give me more leads or I'm going over here, which isn't going to help the problem, right? We need to get them focused on that. And even though it's not what they want to hear, that's why they never look for that in the team. But I say it's the most important thing in a team. Now's your opportunity. You're wondering how you get these people to do it. As a leader, this is your opportunity to actually change their behavior, change their careers, and get them what they want out of real estate. So we got to not look at this as leaders as a negative. This time, this market, this is a time to actually get people into the activities that they've been unwilling to do.
Yeah.
You know, this is, and it really is, because they're going to listen. They're not just rolling in money like they were last year. They're a little bit, so you know, we can do it.
That's a good point, man. Actually yesterday's event with REDX, we just talked about that the whole time. We were like, this is what we should be focusing on.
Right.
And that's all of those things that we were doing a while ago that are now going to start producing more. So I love that.
It's amazing how just like a year and a half of laziness can do this to us. Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
It did, though. It changed real quick. And that, I mean, that's my thought is, you know, if people are listening to Brian and Tristan for the last year and a half and doing the activities you've been coaching all along, then there'd be zero worry about a market shift, right? I mean, the stuff that you're talking about right now, Brian, and what you normally preach, like that's what keeps consistent listings coming. But yeah, a lot of agents got lazy, and I hope I don't offend anybody when I say that, but like the market was so good. It's we don't have to do that. And so it's not revolutionary what the topic that we're talking about here is like, no, remember, we know how to do real estate. There are principles that are going to work every time. And we just got to get back to those and implementing them on your team that may have fallen into bad habits for the last year and a half. That's the way to go. I mean, that was my takeaway, Brian, from everything you were saying. I was just like over here nodding my head, smiling. Yep. We got to get back to those fundamentals with the team.
Yeah. I don't think we need something new or something different. This isn't the end of the world right now. We just got to get back into what we did and get refocused. We got to get in shape again. You know what I mean? Let's start, you know, and they're actually going to listen to you. Like right now, they'll listen. This is the time.
So interesting, right? So interesting. Fear, you know what, Brian? Fear does that to most people.
Yeah.
Uncertainty does that. And you're like, okay, what the hell's happening? And then they look for direction, right? And then you need to be ready to give that direction.
That's right. That's right. It's the time where leaders step up and just drive ahead right now and really be a leader. It's a chance to be a really good leader. So don't get frustrated. It takes a while to get people back in habits and things like that. I think it takes a dashboard. I think it takes, you know, preventative, you know, conversation. It takes a while to implement this. They aren't just going to hear it and say, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Like, this is hard. That's why you're here though, is to stay with them. I'll always say leadership feels like parenting sometimes, you know, just because your kids don't do what you say, you don't throw them out and put them on the street. You stay with them and you kind of keep staying with them until they respond. Now's a time where they're actually more likely to respond to you right now. So be a parent.
Very true. Very true. Brian, I think we can do like a part 2 to this, man. What do you think?
I like it, man. I like it. Anytime chatting with you guys. I love it.
Let's do a part 2.
All right.
Let's bring in Brian into the lead gen conversation virtual event as well.
Yeah. Let's keep it going.
Yeah. I think we're just, dude, your book, by the way, I was looking for it and it's published by Wiley.
Yeah.
Did you talk to Richard at Wiley by any
I did. That's my guy. So he is a slave driver, man. That guy makes me travel and speak and do all this. I mean, that guy is making like running my air miles through the roof. He's wonderful, but yeah.
Richard is such a good guy, man.
He's a really good guy, but my goodness.
So I just emailed him and I go, hey, Richard, I have Brian on the show, just so you know. And he's doing a great job. And now we're gonna push that book out. So good job, man. Good job.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good job, Brian. And everybody, this is recorded, so you'll find it on the YouTube channel, and it'll probably be on later today, early tomorrow, so you can share that on. And then we'll have Brian on for a part 2, and we'll continue to deep dive into helping you produce more with your team. So Brian, thanks, buddy. Where do we find you if we want more information?
Go to EicenhowerCoaching.com, EicenhowerCoaching.com. You can go on there. You can learn a lot. We have, tons of online courses. Of course, we do coaching. You can find the book there, everything. The book, I think we put a link in the chat. It's the High Performing Real Estate Team. Of course, you can find that on Amazon. So I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Got some good reviews too, man. So good job. Again, this is brought to you by REDX. Jump into REDX. There's Robert. We use REDX.
Yeah,
And
that's how.
and Brian's
Yeah,
got
there we
an
go.
awesome cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a
By the
lower
way-
back tattoo as well, but I don't think.
REDX. REDX on your sleeve. I love it, guys. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Hey,
Have an
thanks for
awesome
joining,
day.
everybody. Great having
See
you.
you guys.
Bye.